Okay, so I have a prepared arrow shaft. It's just a willow shaft. I mean, straightened it fairly well. I'm not being too fastidious about it. I've already knocked it. I could use sinew, animal sinew, but I use artificial sinew just to reinforce the knocking. I'll probably put a little bit more on there later when we get to that point. But I have the end that's tapered and the end to fit some field points. Okay, I'm not setting this with any sort of broadheads or any chipped or napped points, only because this is kind of a test or an experiment. But I tapered this so that these field tips will work, or will they're relatively inexpensive. You can get them on Amazon or go to the archery store. And this is one just for target practice. There's these blunt ones that you can get that are blunt. The other ones are semi-sharp, and you can put these on there, and these are good for bird tips. You hit a bird with substantial force enough, you can incapacitate it and then run up on it when it can't fly and put it out of its misery for hunting. But at any rate, we're not going to use this one, but I just wanted to show the difference between the two. So I have the two different tips. Okay, so we're going to use the more sharp field tip. The field tip could work too in a hunting situation. The problem is there's no way for the tip to hook into the animal cavity and not be shaken loose, or either go all the way through or come out. And so now you just injured the animal, and unless you can, this is more or less designed for something small, like a squirrel, rabbit, raccoon, possum, whatever. And if you hit it with something this size like this, and it just doesn't put it down, doesn't stop it, you just injured the animal, and that's worse than, in my mind, and in many people that hunt regularly, in their mind, you just maimed the animal, and they're gonna probably slowly die because they might not be able to use that part of the body that you just hit through infection, etc., etc. So that's why broadheads are better. Certain styled and designed barbed tips work better, so it stays in the animal. All right, that's a conversation for another day. I'm just using this fairly tight product, which is kind of basically like it's heat glue, but it's supposed to be waterproof. So I'm just going to use this lighter here, and I'm going to heat it up, and I'm going to put it on the tip of the shaft, and then jam the field point on top of that, and that should keep it, have it set and make sure that it's attached to this arrow shaft properly. Okay, so for this product, again, as you can see, I've got a little aluminum disposable container or whatever. I'm not outside, again, where I live right now it's just too noisy. You can probably hear it through the window even though it's closed. So I just need to heat this up a little bit. It's like a glue gun, or I could definitely use pine pitch. It's essentially the same thing. And then once I heat it up enough, then I should be able to take my tip and kind of start coating the shaft. Okay, so now again, if you've been watching my channel long enough, you know to improvise using a stick that has some char to it, or a flame, if you want to do this completely primitively. Again, I'm using a lighter just for display purposes. Okay, lighters are not the most reliable tool because when they get wet, they don't work so well. So I think that's enough for now. Again, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna heat this up again and then be ready to take my fill point and put it on top here. So kind of heat this up again. And then again, just like pine pitch or even a modern glue gun, you need to move quickly. Because this likes to dry very, very quickly. And then with these, you kind of like to bop them so that it seats in the seat of the tip, the field tip, correctly. And then to clean it up, you can kind of take some of the excess and kind of pop it off or peel it off. Okay, again, it's quick and dirty. Like I said, not quite elegant. This is more rustic. You know, there's, again, you boyers out there, you know, you're gonna look at this and be like, you're doing it. Okay, I get it. I don't do this every day. You know, I live in the city. I ain't out there in the woods like the rest of you all. So as they say, check your woodland privilege. I'm being snarky. I'm being funny. So it's all good. It's all good. That's what I want. Is get that in there nicely. Be careful when these things are hot. I'm using little saliva and use water just to kind of shape and mold this around here so it's not going to go anywhere too quickly. In my previous arrow making excursions, I have done some common whipping around here, but it will the problem is you know, and usually for just like target shooting, and it makes it difficult to pull the shaft out of the bale of hay or whatever. So I'm going to try to avoid that one on this shaft. But I could continue to go there just to kind of clean it up a little bit. But for the most part, there you go. I mean, these are just products you can get. You know, again, like I said, this fair L tight. This L tight. You can get it in many archery stores, if not online. And then these field points for people that make their own arrows. Again, this is more of a sharpened tip that I have and a blunt tip. Blunt tip, I think you can probably get this good to go for, you know, hunting squabs and grouse and maybe even a turkey or two. They're a bigger bird. You might have to have a little bit of shock value for them, but you know, these blunt tips, they tend to bounce off of a bale of hay versus going into a bale of hay if you're just practicing. Whereas these sharpened field points, they go right into the bales of hay. They would probably go into a living thing. Problem is there's no way for them to stay stuck unless the shaft goes through, or you know, goes, you know, basically almost halfway through the animal. So these are really used for target practice. So I've made a couple of arrows out of willow using the white pine needles as fletching. And then I bored in the nocks. I've reinforced the nocks with artificial sinew. I've wrapped the fletching with artificial sinew. There should be a link to how I show how this is done ad nauseum But really, this is kind of a test, and all I have done is attached field points to these, modern field points to these, using kind of like a sticky glue, waterproof sticky glue. So this is one that has just one row of pine needle fletching. Trying to do a little test here. And then here's the other arrow that is using 2 rows of pine needle fletching. I did shoot this the other day, and I just kind of want to see. There's a lot of weight on the fletching here, which I think too much drag is a detriment. Again, there are plenty of videos, plenty of literature out there on grainage of the arrows versus the draw weight, the pull weight, or this. I mean, it gets really into the weeds. This is basically rocket science. I'm serious. I mean, adult use, bow making, crossbow making, blowgun making. These are like sciences that apparently ancient people who didn't know nothing figured out to the success of being able to bring down and feed themselves to what we have to today. I'm quite the novice in all of it all, so I can't explain it like that. But I just know that information's out there, so I'm just doing some experimentation, which I'm pretty sure we did, thousands of years ago. So again, same sort of makeup. The only difference is I did add some whipping to the field point here using the artificial sinew, heated it up a little bit so that the wax will melt together. But the problem with that is when it hits, and I'm going to be using cardboard, when it hits the cardboard, retrieving the arrow can be a bit of a problem. So that's why I have one that I didn't do that to. It should make it easy, but by doing that, I don't know whether it works or not. I'm just kind of fooling myself into thinking that it's just going to help keep the shaft on tighter. But mind you, I haven't hafted this with a stone point or any broadheads or anything that I could commercially buy or even make. So at any rate, we're going to go out and we're going to test these arrows and see which one flies faster, truer. This is not going to be purely scientific. There is some diameter differences. One is a little heavier, one's a little lighter, but just to see, just to get it on tape. Again, there's a science in there. The Boyer's Bible, I don't know, I think there's like 3 or 4 volumes or something like that. It goes deep in the woods on that if you're really interested in that. I wish I had this back in the day when I was coming up. I've got an anecdotal story about that. I'll probably explain it a little later, but that's kind of what got me really into primitive technology at a very, very, very young age. So, again, more on that later. Alright, so here's my bundle bow. It's made out of willow. It's a quick and dirty bow that I made last year. Spring to spring last year, out of again willow, and it's made of 4 staves. If I added a 5th one, it would be too hard for me to draw. So you got to make one that's according to your strength, and I'll go through a video on how to make one. It's actually kind of a fun little project. You do need a lot of cordage, and you do need to have the resources of the bows. So the statistics of this particular bow are that I'm using 4 staves, and 2 of them are at 60 inches or 152 centimeters long. And then I'm using another 2 staves or lengths of willow sticks at 45 inches or 144 centimeters, 144 centimeters long. Again, these are approximate numbers. Okay, so I'm using 2 at 60 inches, 2 at 45, or 2 at 152 centimeters, and 2 at 144 centimeters. The shorter ones, the ones that are at 45 inches, are set down about 8 inches from the top. And what I mean by that is 8 inches from the top. And then I bundle them in. Again, I'll go into this into better detail when I do a video on how to make a bundle bow. The bowstring length. Again, I'm using artificial sinew for this. I could probably use dog bane or any other strong cordage. Artificial sinew, I don't have to take from the ecology, the environment, and I don't have to do too much to process it. I can just go to the store and buy it. But there you go. The length that I need is 57 inches or 145 centimeters long. Okay, and that's gonna give it a hand to thumb ratio approximately, which is what you want at the middle of the bow. Okay, and again, this is a rustic bundle bow. This is not a perfectly made bow that you've spent hours and hours shaving and tailoring and yada yada yada. Let's this is something that you can make in the field. Granted, you have enough cordage, okay, and you need something quick and dirty, so that you can take down some game. And this one for me is at 32 inches or 81 centimeters. Comes out to about 41 pounds approximately. So between 40, 41, 45 pounds. When this wood was real green, it probably was less. Now it probably got a lot more tension. And yes, I got my tab because it, that bowstring will cut you at the strength that it is now. But right now I might have to remeasure or the poundage on it. I do have an electronic meter to test the poundage. But this is a bundle bow that I put together a year ago. I have yet to actually record the process. I will do that. But we're going to test out these arrows with the fletching using pine needles. So I just want to make sure, again, I'm using my bundle bow to test out these pine fletched arrows that I just put together. I'm using field tips. I'm not using any stone tips or anything like that. So we'll see what happens. So this first one that I'm going to shoot is the one that has the less fletching. Okay, so I just only did one round of fletching, kind of a loose job. And I'm not shooting very far, yada yada, probably about as close as you could get to a rabbit or something like that. The next one I'm going to use is the double fletching. So this is the one that has 2 rows of fletching using pine needles. Again, same tip. We'll do this again. Okay. We'll do this again. And what I like to do is I can take my little finger or my ring finger and little finger, and I can just hold it like so. I can take 2 or 3 of these like that. And then the interesting thing about this type of fletching is that you don't have to have a cock feather. And the cock feather is if you do a tri-fletch, there would be 2 other feathers out here and 1 up top. That's your cock feather. That lets you know this is the way you're supposed to have it out.
But when you have a round fletching like this, then it doesn't really matter, as long as it seats into the bowstring. So we'll shoot it again, see what happens. It's not the perfect straight arrow, but that's okay. It should fly just fine. A little high. This is the one with double fletching. Yeah, right on mark. So at this range, I was aiming high first time, but we'll do one more. We'll do one more, and then, you know, that's just to prove that you can use different types of fletching for your arrows, you know, especially in a primitive space. This is gonna be the last test with the fletching with using white pine needles. I've already shown you how I try to clutch them, you know, for hunting and whatnot. The idea is to get as close as you can to your quarry, and it's all instinctive. And again, this is using a bundle bow, just a bunch of sticks lashed together with a bowstring. Alright, so I was probably about 12 feet, 2 yards away from this target, and I was able to be consistent in my hitting with that 41-pound bundle bow at that yardage, or that, you know, distance. I was able to do that. I haven't done anything real long distance, didn't go out to the, you know, range or anything like that, but this is what we ended up with. From my point of view, again, like I said, fletching works. You know, fletching works. It's just the science of it. I mean, over, you know, over many thousands of years, we've perfected it, you know. But you take a leaf off the ground, you tie it around the end of a sharp, straight shaft, boom, it's gonna hit your target if you can get close enough to it, right? So that's one example, right? Then we look at the instrument of that, you know, that projects the projectile, and all it is a bundle of sticks. Anybody that's watched the movie Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers, and the other actors in that were awesome, that started the franchise, he made a bundle bow. And I wish I could point out the actual timestamp in the movie, and I saw it, and he made a bundle bow, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, that makes sense. And it was like, boink. I made plenty of those bows when I was a kid, and they went boink. They went down. Like, as soon as you pulled it, see, listen. This is almost an instrument called a berimbau, right? This is taught as a bow for a violin or a cello. See? This is how taught this type of instrument you need to use, or you need to have, in order to take down anything. And I didn't know this as a kid, but that gets into a, you know, whole nother conversation. But, you know, as you learn these things, you know, all you have to do is wrap a bunch of sticks together, have some strong string, and make it sound like this. You know, yeah, you know, look up the berimbau. That'll be the next thing. But that goes into instrumentation, just instruments, primitive instruments, but in capoeira, you know. But this is just a bundle bow works perfectly fine. It's 40. Actually, it taxes me. I think at my draw length, if this don't snap in my face, it's probably about 50, 45, you know, just to hold it. It's pretty tough. And this has been sitting in my garage for about a year. I didn't put it up right away. I wanted to test it. I wanted to see what's going on with it. But, you know, there is some follow in it, meaning there's a bend in it. That's a whole nother conversation. This poetry or voyeurism, being a voyeur, you know, there's science into it. In this type of woods, yada yada. So anyways, this instrument works, as you've seen. It works with real quick and dirty primitive projectiles that I just made. And again, I didn't want to take the time to make, you know, stone tip arrows and all this and that, because it would have just, you know, it would have just been too much of a problem. So yeah, and the bunnies are about, it's May 2023. I see bunnies all over the place. Poor things. Yeah, they're hungry. So am I. See you next time. And as a side note, you probably will need a tab of some sort. This is a tab I made out of buckskin. I think I put a pattern on my website. This keeps me from cutting my fingers. Okay. One day, hopefully, I will show you how Japanese bows are drawn. You know, the whole kyudo set, right? And it's a ring, and you use your thumb to pull it back, and then you raise it and extend out. But for our intents and purposes, I just have some buckskin that I use some high glue, taped it together to keep my fingers in place. See y'all later.